Hi everyone, it's Brittany with Ethereal Hair and Makeup. Today I'm going to be showing you 3 hairstyles to refine hair. Let's get into it. First up is this super sleek, smooth upstyle. So I'm just starting with straight hair here, and I'm going to go through and just spritz the crown. So I'm just kind of sectioning and just spraying with a little bit of water. And then I'm going to go in with the Kenra. This is their root lifting spray, so it's kind of like a mousse. So you have to apply this when the hair is damp. So I'm just going to go through and section through just where I sprayed that water, just in the crown, not anywhere lower than that. And I'm just going to get that incorporated. So now I'm going to actually be blow drying all of this hair forward. So I'm pushing it all forward with my round brush because this is going to help it dry that way. And then when I flip it back over her head, it's going to give me a little bit of added volume. So I'm just working this through, making sure all that product is incorporated, drying that out. And then I'm just going to flip that all back over her head. And then I just went back through right at this front section. I wanted to have a little bit more lift there, so I just blow dried that a little bit on my round brush. And then this is the great volume that we get afterwards. So now I'm going to be going in and I'm back combing, and I'm going to be using the dry volume burst here. This is going to help me with just getting that back combing to hold. So I'm spraying these sections before and after I'm back combing. And also because I've blow dried that root spray in there, this hair already has a really good texture. So it's really going to want to latch on and really hold that back combing really well. So just doing that on the top and the sides here. And then key for this style, because I want it to look so smooth, I'm just going back over and really smoothing out the top and the sides, just that very top layer. I want it to be really sleek and really clean, getting that nice and smooth, and then we're going to start the style. So just created a twist here on this left side in the center back, and then I'm just going to bobby pin that into place. So just take your time with these bobby pins. You want to make sure this twist is really smooth. Comb through it if you need to. And then I'm also going to be using the Kenra 25. This is their volume spray. It's really going to help me lock all those flyaways into place. After I've got that section pinned, I'm just going to go back through, smooth it out, smooth all the sides, and then we're going to repeat the exact same steps. Quick tip here when you're working with your bobby pins, I'm putting them in facing towards the twist, and then I'm pivoting them so they face the other way as I push them into the style. So this is going to make them really secure. And then once I get everything how I want it, I'm going to go back in with that Kenra 25 and just spray everything. This is where you want to make sure that your sides are exactly how you want them, because now we're going to move on to the bottom of the bun and you're not going to be able to adjust it or change it later. Now for the bottom bun. So I'm taking a hair donut that I've actually cut apart. So I cut it and unrolled it, and then I'm able to just kind of cut it to the size that I want. And then I can re-roll it up to make it as big or as little as I want, depending on what I'm doing with it and that kind of thing. So I've just kind of made a square, and this is a perfect way to add to a bun, make a bun look bigger. If you're working with somebody who has really fine hair, maybe their hair is shorter than this models that I'm working on. Maybe their hair is even thinner than this. So this is just a great tool that you can use when you need to. So I just am pinning this right at the bottom of the bun. You saw I went back in and just back combed the rest of this hair. Now I'm just going to wrap it around my hand. And if your hair is shorter than this that you're working with, you can only wrap it once, or maybe you need to wrap it more than this. But I just wrapped it around my hand. And then I'm just going to roll it across that bun that I've made. And then we're just going to bobby pin that into place over that donut. And this is where that donut really comes in and can help you, because it gives you something for your bobby pins to pin into as well. Take your time, get this nice and secure. You really also want to make sure that everything is smooth and sleek. So if you need to go back, tame any flyaways or anything like that with the 25. And then I just went back and combed some of those blonde hairs across that darker section just to break it up a little bit more. And this is the finished look, you guys. It's super clean, super sleek, just a gorgeous classic up style. This next style is my take on a textured French twist. And I'm starting with straight hair here, and I'm going to go in and curl. So I've sectioned out a couple inches of her hair, and I'm just going to be curling. And I'm using my flat iron right now, but you can use any iron that you want. At this point, I'm not too worried about curl directions or the way that I'm curling. I just really want to get some texture in there for the next step. And I'm also using that dry volume burst and spraying it through each section. So curling is one of the ways that you can get a lot of texture into the hair that you wouldn't normally get if you were doing it on straight hair. I know this might seem like a boring step, but I don't want to skip over it too quickly, because there are a lot of options here when you're curling. You can curl with a different size iron. You can add some crimping in here. A smaller iron is going to give you a totally different texture. And if you're working with naturally curly hair, that's going to give you a totally different effect as well. So there's lots of options when you're curling. Then I'm going to go in with the Kenra Whip Taffy, and I'm just going to run this through my fingers and in the hair, just kind of break up those curls a little bit. And I'm also going in and just back combing on the sides and the top with that dry volume burst. I want to add a lot of volume, a lot of texture here. Then I'm going to go in and back comb internally as well. So what this means is I've clipped this top section up out of the way, and I'm going to take this middle back section and I'm just going to back comb it a ton. So this is going to make a base for me, which is a great way to make yourself a base if you don't have any hair padding or you don't know what to do when you need to make a base for a hairstyle. And that is all going to get covered up by the rest of this hair anyway. So I'm just smoothing out a little bit of the top, making sure you can't see any back combing. Then I'm going to gather all of this hair in my hand like I'm going to make a ponytail, and I'm just going to wrap it around my hand and bring it across the center of her head and just kind of make a nice rolled shape there. Then I'm going to start bobby pinning. And I'm using a couple different pinning techniques here. One is just kind of a sewing motion, so I weave the bobby pin in so it catches a lot of hair. And the other is more of a pivot technique where I put the bobby pin in one direction and then pivot it to face the other way and push it the rest of the way in. Then going back in, I'm just kind of curling some of these top pieces and also the pieces on the sides, just kind of detailing now. So this is where you can really make your style unique. I'm kind of pulling any pieces that I want to bring out of the style, rearranging them, pinning them somewhere else. And this is where you can really make this style seem really soft and messy, is kind of pull out some pieces that you want to leave out or you want to make them look more detailed by pinning them in kind of individually. And this is what gives that style just a really messy, textured effect when it's actually more secure than you would think that it is. Finally, just touching up any flyaways with that dry volume burst, and then this is the finished look. So lots of texture in there, but it's still really secure. Such a fun look. This final look is a braided half up style. My trick to this style is going to be the crimper. Crimping is such an easy way to add a lot of volume and a lot of texture to thin hair in not a lot of time. So I've sectioned off this top area, just the crown, and right underneath that I'm going to go in and add a little crimping. I'm crimping about 2 to 3 inches down the hair shaft. You can always do more or less depending on what you're doing, but this is really just going to add a lot of volume to the style that we're going to be creating. One thing to keep in mind though when you're doing this on a client is just to ask them if they want to see the crimping in the style. Sometimes it may be more to their preference for you to hide it and do it a little bit more internally like we did with that back combing earlier. So this is just always something that I ask them. But if you haven't tried this technique before, I would definitely recommend it because it actually increases the hair volume by 3 times. So if this is something that you haven't tried, definitely just check it out. Once I have all that crimping incorporated, we're going to start with the half up style. So I'm just starting right in the back of her head, and instead of taking one big crown section, which I could do, and just pinning that all in place right away, I'm going to take a couple different sections here just to give the style a little bit more depth. So I'm just grabbing a couple sections, twisting them around each other, spraying some of that dry volume burst, and then just fluffing those out and pinning them all kind of right in the center in the back of her head so they're all in the same place. Then I'm going to repeat that one more time, and you can already see the depth and the texture that we're getting from those pieces of the crimped hair that you can see in this style. Now for the braids. I've sectioned out a couple pieces around her face on this side just to frame her face. And then this is actually her heavy side. So this is the side she parts on. So this braid's going to be a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to go in and start creating a regular French braid here. And when you're working with this crimped hair, you'll really be able to feel how fluffy it is. It's not a frizzy texture, but it's just really fluffy. And it's so easy to work with. And it gives the hair such good volume. So I'm going to French braid until I reach about her ear. And then I'm just going to braid normally the rest of the way down. This is where that crimping really comes into play because you're going to be able to see it in the braid once we start to fluff it out even more. Crimping is also a really good technique to use on darker hair when you're making a style so you can really see that texture and dimension pop. Once I get this braid all finished, I'm going to pin it right across those other pins and those other sections that we secured. And then I'm going to just start fluffing that braid out so you can't see any of my pins. And then this really becomes the fun part where you can kind of just pull on this. I'm kind of pulling on some of the more crimped pieces as well, just to kind of get those to stand out even more. Just be sure to take your time when you're doing this, as when you're pulling out any braid, especially on more fine hair, it can really be easy to pull a piece all the way out and mess up your braid or kind of make the hair a little bit too frizzy. So just take your time when you're doing this. And then we're going to move on to the other side. So I just went back in and added a little bit more crimping right at this top part because I feel like she needed a little bit more volume there. And then this is her lighter side. So this braid is going to be a little bit smaller since this is not the side that she's parting on. But even with that considered, I still feel like with that crimping, it's going to help you make the braid even fluffier. It's going to have even more texture than it would if you just didn't add any crimping at all. And this is where that dry volume burst really comes in to help you fluff that braid out. It really just adds a lot of texture and keeps the braid from slipping right back into place. Once I get that braid fluffed out how I want it, I'm going to connect those two braids in the back and pin that one right next to the other one so it looks like they're joining. Then I'm going back through and I wanted to add a couple more curls just to give it a little bit more dimension, just kind of to add some accent curls. So I'm going back through. This is a 1.5-inch clip iron, and I'm just kind of picking and choosing my curls here, just adding a few and then brushing them through with my fingers to kind of break them up a little bit more. And finally, just going in with that memory spray. You guys know this one is definitely my favorite for any kind of half up style. This one really locks those curls into place, but it's not going to leave your curls feeling crispy or crunchy to where your client feels like they can't even touch them or run their fingers through them during the day. And that is it for the braided half up style. I hope that you guys enjoyed these looks that I showed you today. Thank you so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another tutorial. Bye guys.